Questions? Hare Krishna. So these devotees are missing. No? But in any case, so one good example in how one should be very careful in dealings in the association of devotees is this pastime of Chitraketu Maharaj being cursed by Mother Parvati. So we see Chitraketu Maharaj, he is an exalted Vaishnav. He had darshan of the Supreme Lord Shankarshan. And of course, there's Lord Shiva, who is also the topmost Vaishnav. And there is Mother Durga, who's a Vaishnavi. And there are other great sages and Vaishnavas sitting there. So this whole thing, instant, is an assembly of Vaishnavas. So how one must deal in the association of devotees is very nicely exhibited in that pastime. So we all know the pastime. So Chitraketu Maharaj is going in his airplane and he sees Lord Shiva giving a discourse to great sages, including Narad Muni and the four Kumaras. They are also present over there. And there is Brahma. And Lord Shiva has Parvati on his lap as he's speaking to these great renunciants. And Chitraketu Maharaj, as he's passing, he laughs and he comments in an astonishing way, that how Lord Shiva is sitting with his wife on his lap. And then we find that Lord Shiva and the other great sages, they don't bother. Why they didn't bother? Because they understood the intention of Chitraketu Maharaj. So as the Acharyas explain their commentaries, that the intention of Chitraketu Maharaj was good. He was thinking that common people may misunderstand Lord Shiva and criticize him. So he had good intention. He had good intention, but yet his good intentions were not appreciated, rather misunderstood. Why they were misunderstood? Because there was a breach of etiquette. Even though he had good intentions, there was a breach of etiquette. What was that? Which Mother Parvati, when she chastises Chitraketu, she makes a point. She says, there are such exalted personalities in this assembly, like Brahma and Narada and so many others. They never commented or criticized Lord Shiva. If they didn't criticize, who are you to criticize? You think you're bigger than them? That was Mother Parvati's justification for the curse. She says, if Lord Shiva was doing something wrong, then these other great Vaishnavas should have commented. But they are not commenting. Then who do you think? You have become so great that you can comment? So in that connection, Srila Prabhupada writes a beautiful purport. So you can read that translation and purport. So this is what Mother Parvati is saying and the purport to that.
Hare Krishna. Oh impudent one, my dear son, it is 6:17:15.
6:17, 15.
Oh impudent one, my dear son, now take birth in a low, sinful family of demons, so that you will not commit such an offense again towards exalted, saintly person in this world. Purport. One should be very careful not to commit offenses at the lotus feet of Vaishnavas, of whom Lord Shiva is the best. While instructing Srila Rupa Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu described an offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava as Hatimata, a mad elephant. When a mad elephant enters a nice garden, it spoils the entire garden. Similarly, if one becomes like a mad elephant and commit offenses at the lotus feet of Vaishnavas, his entire spiritual career is halted. One should therefore be very careful not to commit offenses at the lotus feet of Vaishnavas. Mother Parvati was justified in punishing Chitraketu, for Chitraketu impudently criticized the Supreme Father, Mahadev, who is the father of the living entities conditioned within this material world. The goddess Durga is called mother, and Lord Shiva is called a father. Called father. A pure Vaishnava should be very careful to engage in his specific duty without criticizing others.
This is the important statement. The Vaishnav, please repeat, Vaishnav.
A pure Vaishnava should be very careful
A pure Vaishnav should be very careful
to engage
in
his specific duty without criticizing others.
without criticizing others. Next.
This is the safest position.
This is the safest position. Please note that one sentence. If we live according to that one sentence, we'll be very safe. That's okay. That's all. That's all. That is the important point. One should simply engage in his specific duties without criticizing others. That is the safest position. As in English it is said, mind your own business. Do your own duty. Don't criticize others. That is the safest position. Okay, so what's the question? Okay, you have to pass the mic.
Regarding Krishna Eka Sharanam, it's little difficult to understand this, as full surrender to Krishna is not easy. For now, should we consider anyone practicing Krishna consciousness has done Krishna Eka Sharanam?
Okay. Srila Prabhupada, in many of his lectures, Srila Prabhupada says, the nature of a Vaishnav is to respect every living entity, even an ant. That is the nature of a Vaishnav. He respects everyone. Every living entity is ready to respect. And what to speak of Vaishnavas? And so therefore, the best principle is to respect everyone. New Vaishnav, middle Vaishnav, advanced Vaishnav. Better to respect everyone. That is the safe position. But in any case, if you want to put it in more practical terms as to what is Krishna Eka Sharanam, that means one who has taken shelter of Krishna. And so, especially in our society, we can say that anyone who is sincerely trying to chant 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, following the regulative principles, following the instructions of spiritual master, and engage in Krishna consciousness, should be considered to have a reasonable degree of surrender. And so therefore, such a Vaishnav is definitely worthy of our respect. So any such Vaishnav, then one has to be extremely careful. But the general principle is to be respectful to every living entity. Because we do not know which living entity will become a Vaishnav in the future. Just like we give the example of Dhruva Maharaj. So when he was offended by Suruchi, he was not a Vaishnav. But yet, Suruchi and her son, Uttama, had to face the consequences. So therefore, the best policy is to be always careful. All right?
Second question. If neophyte devotees have to be surrounded by pure devotees always, then is it not more risky, Prabhuji, as he may commit aparad to them, which is even more dangerous?
So what's the solution? Don't be in association. So that's not the solution. The solution is that one has to be in the association of devotees and learn to be careful. That is the austerity. That's what Krishna is speaking about in the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, verses 14, 15, and 16. Krishna is speaking about austerity of the body, austerity of speech, austerity of the mind. Krishna is speaking about these things. So that is what we need to practice. So even though I don't feel like respecting, even though I don't feel like behaving properly, even though I don't feel like speaking properly, still for the higher purpose of pleasing Guru, Krishna, and the Vaishnavas, then initially, as we are sadhakas, as an austerity, we need to practice these things. And when one is purified, they will become natural. But then that is the austerity one has to go through. Not that, okay, living in association is difficult, so leave the association. If one leaves the association, then where is the hope only? Then one will leave Krishna consciousness after some time. So there is no alternative to being in the association. One has to be in the association and at the same time learn these qualities. And therefore, we can take guidance and act accordingly. Okay. Any questions here? Okay, fine. So now we'll go to the next point.
Why that word unnecessarily is used? Because how to understand that?
Yes. So there can be criticism for proper purposes. Just like anyone who's in a responsible position, like parents, teachers, spiritual masters, then they may have to correct others to help them improve as a service, correct? If they don't do that service, then how will the dependents understand their mistakes? How will they improve? So as a service, somebody in a responsible position may have to correct. So that is necessary correction or necessary criticism. But unnecessary means there's no business to criticize. But still one is criticizing, finding faults. That is unnecessary. So that's what Srila Prabhupada is writing. We just read that statement. So if one doesn't have that service, then there is no need. Then simply perform one's own duties and don't criticize. And of course, if one finds some genuine faults or misbehavior on the part of another person or devotee, and if I don't have that responsibility, then I can report to someone who has that responsibility and let them do the needful. See? Okay, fine. So now we'll go to the next point, and that is the second impediment. What is that? Yes, the Lord's desire, the Lord's plan, that is the second impediment. So now, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is giving examples of, whose example? Jay and Vijay. So somebody may ask a question, why did the Lord put impediments in the life of his devotees? Jay and Vijay are his devotees, correct? They're Vaikuntha Vasis. So why did the Lord decide to put impediments in their life? What did they do? Is the Lord so cruel that he just puts impediments just for fun? What's the answer? You've already studied, no? Third canto. What? Okay, to teach non-devotees. Okay, that's also one reason in that whole pastime. Yes, one of the reasons to teach non-devotees and devotees how to appropriately behave. Okay. Any other reason? Why did the Lord enact that whole pastime of the cursing of Jay and Vijay? बोलो हो गया ना? To show the glory of devotees. What is the glory in that pastime? For the Lord's pleasure, they agreed to become demons. So somebody may say, this is too bad. For the Lord's pleasure, Lord is making someone into demon. That means the Lord is so interested in his own pleasure that he's ready to make his devotees into demons for his own pleasure. To teach how Lord loves Brahmanas. So does the Lord love Brahmanas over Vaishnavas?
Although Lord may put some impediments for the pastime, but he doesn't take away his like ultimate ultimately path to go back to God at liberation. In some lifetime, he's not taking that away.
Okay. That's correct. But talking specifically of this pastime of Jay and Vijay. The Bhagavatam pastimes have to be very carefully understood and analyzed. The only purpose, there is only one purpose for all the Lord's activities. Actually, the Lord has no activities to perform, right? Namam karmani limpanti, name karma phale spriha. Or from the Shvetashvara Upanishad was that? Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate. Swabhaviki jnana balaki. So the Lord has no activities to perform. Why should he have activities? He does not have karma phale spriha. That means what? He does not have desire for some fruitive results. He is Atmaram. He is Atmaram and he is Aptakam. If he has some desires, he can fulfill on his own. He doesn't require anybody's help. But yet he performs so many activities. We are reading in Bhagavatam and so many scriptures filled with unlimited activities of the Supreme Lord in his various incarnations. Why does he have to do all that? Work. There's only one reason. What is that? Boliye na. Okay, to attract his devotees and to give pleasure to his devotees and to fulfill the desires of his devotees. That's the only reason for all his activities. There is no other reason. So, in this pastime of Jay and Vijay, as told by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and as explained by Srila Prabhupada also, Jay and Vijay in the first place desired. They thought our Lord Narayan must definitely be having some tendency to fight. But with whom will he fight here in Vaikuntha? Because in Vaikuntha, everyone is only offering respects. So who will fight with him? How will his tendency to fight be satisfied? So let us do this service for the Lord. Who desired? Jay Vijay desired. And because Jay Vijay desired, the Lord understands the desires of his devotees. And to fulfill the desires of his devotees, the Lord enacted the whole pastime. That is the specific case of Jay and Vijay. Okay, who are already perfected individuals in the Vaikuntha lokas. They're not ordinary souls. So as far as Jay and Vijay are concerned, it is not that the Lord purposefully put some impediments, but it was first of all the desire of Jay and Vijay to serve the Lord, and the Lord reciprocated with that desire. Okay? Otherwise, the Lord has no business putting impediments in the life of his perfected devotees. Okay? Now, wait. Let's complete the discussion. That is about perfected devotees. Now, what about sadhakas? What about sadhakas? Okay. So, please open one purport. first canto, 5th chapter, 19th verse. Somebody read the translation and the purport.
My dear Vyas, even though a devotee of Lord Krishna,
This is the conversation between Narada and Vyasadeva.
even though a devotee of Lord Krishna sometimes fall down somehow or other, he certainly does not undergo material existence like others, fruity workers, etc.
Little louder and
Because a person who has once relished the test of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again.
purport.
A devotee of the Lord automatically becomes uninterested in the enchantment of the material existence because he is rasagraha, or one who has tasted the sweetness of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. There are certainly many instances where devotees of the Lord have fallen down due to uncongenial association, just like fruity workers who are always prone to degradation. But even though he falls down, a devotee is never to be considered the same as a fallen karmi. A karmi suffers the result of his own fruitive reactions, whereas a devotee is reformed by chastisement directed by the Lord Himself. The sufferings of an orphan and the sufferings of a beloved child of a king are not one and the same. An orphan is really poor because he has no one to take care of him. But a beloved son of a rich man, although he appears to be on the same level as the orphan, is always under the vigilance of his capable father. A devotee of the Lord, due to wrong association, sometimes imitates the fruity workers. The fruity workers want to lord it over the material world. Similarly, a neophyte devotee foolishly thinks of accumulating some material power in exchange for devotional service. Such foolish devotees are sometimes put into difficulty by the Lord Himself. As a special favor, He may remove all material paraphernalia. By such action, the bewildered devotee is forsaken by all friends and relatives, and so he comes to his senses again by the mercy of the Lord and is set right to execute his devotional service. In Bhagavad Gita, it is also said that such fallen devotees are given a chance to take birth in a family of highly qualified brahmanas or in a rich mercantile family. A devotee in such a position is not as fortunate as one who is chastised by the Lord and put into a position seemingly of helplessness. The devotee who becomes helpless by the will of the Lord is more fortunate than those who are born in a good families. The fallen devotees born in good family may forget the lotus feet of the Lord because they are less fortunate. But the devotee who is put into forlorn condition is more fortunate because he swiftly returns to the lotus feet of the Lord, thinking himself helpless all around. Pure devotional service is so spiritually relishable that a devotee becomes automatically uninterested in material enjoyment. That is a sign of perfection in a progressive devotional service. A pure devotee continuously remembers the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna and does not forget him even for a moment, not even in exchange for all the opulence of the three worlds.
Okay, so what have we understood from this purport? Why does a devotee put a sadhaka into difficulties? Why does the Lord put a sadhaka into difficulties?
Telling in the purport that a helpless devotee is a more fortunate soul because he doesn't have any material shelters to take. Rather,
Okay, that is what happens later when the Lord takes away his shelters. But why does the Lord do that in the first place?
because one may be little complacent and one may be taking shelter of material things rather than taking shelter of Lord.
Right. So you can see specifically Prabhupada writes that a devotee, he may have material desires due to uncongenial association. Right? You saw that? uncongenial association. That's why we had that whole discussion on the result of asatsang. That is one of the important factors for developing material desires. So, because of that wrong association, one develops material desires. And when Krishna sees that a devotee is having material desires, what does Krishna think? That is revealed by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Those famous verses. Krishna kahe. Bolo.
भजे मागे ए विषय सुख
हाँ।
अमृत छाड़ी विषय मागे ए बड़ा मूर्ख
हाँ.
आमी विज्ञा ए मूर्ख विषय के
केन
न दीबा
दीबा।
स्वचरणामृत दिया विषय बुलाई
Good. So, this is Krishna's thinking. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami is revealing Krishna's mind. Who can reveal Krishna's mind? But Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, exalted Vaishnava, is revealing Krishna's mind. So when Krishna sees that a devotee is having material desires, then Krishna thinks, oh, such a foolish devotee. He has got Amrita. That's what this verse is also saying, no? Shukdev Goswami, Makaranda. Makaranda. That is what the devotee has got. He has got the honey, he has got the nectar of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. But he's so foolish, giving up that Amrita, he is going for this poisonous sense gratification. And therefore Krishna says, Krishna thinks, I am not so foolish like this devotee. So what I will do? Swachanamrita diya vishay bhulaiba. I will give my charanamrit so that he forgets the sense objects. But how Krishna gives the charanamrit is very inconceivable. It is not as easy as getting the charanamrit here in the temple. But that is what Krishna does. Out of his causeless mercy on the devotee, as Prabhupada is very clearly writing here, Krishna purposefully punishes the devotee. Right? Prabhupada is writing that. Krishna purposefully punishes the devotee. But that is Krishna's mercy on the devotee. So that punishment can come in so many different ways. So it could be physical, it could be mental, it could be spiritual, so many different ways, impediments Krishna puts so that the devotee comes to his senses, that he is going on the wrong path. One of the ways, as Prabhupada is mentioning in this purport also, Yasyaham anugrinami harishe tadhanam shanai. So basically, whatever Krishna feels to be the cause of the impediment in a devotee's progress, Krishna removes that. So if wealth, prestige, position, all these are the causes of impediment or the impediments in a devotee's life, Krishna removes them. So that the devotee loses all shelters, as that verse explains. When the wealth is taken, then the devotee loses all friends, relatives, everyone is gone. Because people stick around when the opulence is there. When there is no wealth, no opulence, friends, relatives, everyone go away. Because what is the use of such a person? Useless. Friendship is only meant for getting wealth, no? As in the explanation to those verses, Srila Prabhupada explains, or the verse itself explains, there's one verse which says, so when the devotee loses, first thing is, he loses his wealth. Second thing is, he loses friends and relatives. So all shelters taken. He is left with nothing and no one. Just like that Avanti Brahman. We read about the Avanti Brahman. And then the devotee is forced to take shelter of the Supreme Lord. That is what the Lord does. So therefore, if one is attached to something material which is an impediment in one's progress, then Krishna, he puts the devotee into such a situation such a difficulty by which he realizes his mistake. That is the purpose. And so therefore, as Srila Prabhupada is explaining, such a devotee should consider himself to be very fortunate that Krishna has put him into difficulties so that he realizes his mistake. And for that, the association is very important. If one is not in the association, association means being in guidance. Association does not mean simply staying together and gossiping. That is not association. Association means to take guidance from experienced senior Vaishnavas. That is the purpose of association. So when one is in that proper association and then one receives guidance, then one will understand one's mistakes and one will rectify. And that is the purpose why the Lord puts impediments in the life of a sadhaka. Okay, let's read another purport. 10th canto, 2nd chapter, verse 33. That's the verse which Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur quotes in his commentary. So somebody can open that and read Srila Prabhupada's purport to that.
Devotees generally do not fall down, but if circumstances...
The translation. So this is the demigod's prayers to Krishna within Devaki's womb.
O Madhava, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord of the Goddess of Fortune, if devotees completely in love with you sometimes fall from the path of devotion, they do not fall like non-devotees, for you still protect them. Thus, they fearlessly traverse the heads of their opponents and continue to progress in devotional service.
Yes, so that's why in this purport we just read, Srila Prabhupada gives the analogy of, yes, the king's son and the orphan. So the materialist is like the orphan, he has no shelter. But the devotee is like the king's son. So even though he's put in difficulty, he's all the time being watched by the loving father. Okay, read the book.
Devotees generally do not fall down, but if circumstantially they do, the Lord, because of their strong attachment to Him, gives them protection in all circumstances. Thus, even if devotees fall down, they are still strong enough to traverse the heads of their enemies. We have actually seen that our Krishna consciousness movement has many opponents, such as the deprogrammers, who instituted a strong legal case against the devotees. We thought that this case would take a long time to settle, but because the devotees were protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we unexpectedly won the case in one day. Thus, a case that was expected to continue for years was settled in a day because of the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has promised in Bhagavad Gita 9.31, Kaunteha pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. In history, there are many instances of devotees like Chitraketu, Indradumna, and Maharaj Bharat, who circumstantially fell down but were still protected. Maharaj Bharat, for example, because of his attachment to a deer, thought of a deer at a time of death, and therefore in his next life he became a deer. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajyante ante kalevaram. Because of protection by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, the deer remembered his relationship with the Lord and next took birth in a good Brahmanical family and performed devotional service. Suchinam Srimtam Gehe, Yogo Brashto Bhijayate. Similarly, Chitraketu fell down and became a demon, Vitrasura, but he too was protected. Thus, even if one falls down from the path of Bhakti Yoga, one is ultimately saved. If a devotee is strongly situated in devotional service, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has promised to protect him. Kanteha pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. But even if a devotee circumstantially fall down, he is protected by Madhava. The word Madhava is significant. Ma, Mother Lakshmi, the mother of all opulences, is always with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if the devotee is in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the opulences of the Lord are ready to help him. Yatra Yogeshwaro Krishna, Yatra Partha Dhanurdhara, Tatra Shri Vijaya Bhutir Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. Wherever there is a Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna and his devotee Arjuna, Partha, there is victory, opulence, extraordinary power, and morality. The opulences of a devotee are not a result of karma kanda vichar. A devotee is always protected by all of the Supreme Lord's opulences, of which no one can deprive him. Tesham nitya abhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamiham. Thus, a devotee cannot be defeated by any opponents. A devotee, therefore, should not deviate knowingly from the path of devotion. The adherent devotee is assured all protection from the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Okay. So here, of course, Srila Prabhupada is talking about devotees who fell down but still were protected by the Lord. So in all cases, the Lord definitely protects his devotees. How that protection comes could take different forms based upon who is the recipient. But the Lord could put impediments or punishments in the life of a devotee just to rectify him and bring him to the right path. So that is how we have to understand the Lord's protection. So the Lord's protection comes in various ways. So just to complete reading the commentary of Vishwanath Thakur on this verse, we had read half of it. So we'll read the other half. Please read this.
True, the devotee does not have any obstacles arising from
That was an obstacle.
any obstacles arising from time and karma. However, there are two types of obstacles.
Yes, the devotee does not have any obstacle arising from time and karma. Therefore, in that purport also, Srila Prabhupada is saying that the difficulties in the life of a devotee are not due to karma. They are specifically orchestrated by the Lord. So whatever happens in the life of a devotee is orchestrated by the Lord. It's not due to time and karma.
However, there are two types of obstacle for the devotees, that caused by great offense and that caused by the Lord's desire. Great offense is pacified over a long time after undergoing appropriate difficulties, or is quickly removed by the mercy of great devotees. Examples are Dvivida and Rahuna.
Okay, so he gives the examples of offenses as Dvivida and
Rahugana.
Rahugana. So we know in the case of Dvivida, so he committed offense towards
Lakshman.
Yes, he had committed an offense towards Lakshman. He disrespected Lakshman. And as a result of that, what happened? Say?
I think Banasur.
Yes. Because of the offense towards Lakshman, then material desires arose. And therefore, he felt the asatsang very favorable. Therefore, he fell into asatsang. And then he associated with Banasur and he himself became Asur. And in the case of Rahuguna, of course, he offended Jad Bharat, but then by the mercy of Jad Bharat, he was rectified. Of course, Dvivida got liberated by Lord Balaram. Okay.
The Lord's desire means to teach proper conduct to the devotee, and obstacle arising from the Lord's desire only increase prema in the devotee. An example is Bharat. Since Priyavrat did not commit offense, his obstacle arose by the desire of the Lord. The Lord taught his devotees by showing through adoration for a deer that the devotees should not have attachment, though they may think such attachment is a good quality. It should be understood in the case of Priyavrat that the Lord thought that the devotees should follow the order of superiors, though it is not suitable for bhakti, by showing how Priyavrat followed the order of Brahma.
So he's saying here that the Lord had a specific reason for putting obstacles in the lives of these great devotees, like Bharat Maharaj. So through Bharat Maharaj, the Lord wanted to show the entire world that how the devotees should not have some material attachments, even though they may think that that attachment is good, as Bharat Maharaj was justifying initially. So that's the lesson which the Lord wanted to teach everyone through Bharat Maharaj. And through Priyavrat, he wants to show that how it's very essential that devotees follow the orders of superiors, even though that order may apparently look unfavorable for bhakti. That is the lesson which the Lord himself wanted to teach through Priyavrat. and therefore he put that obstacle in the life of Priyavrata. So for every devotee, the Lord has a certain purpose and a certain prayojan. So these are the two obstacles which he speaks about in the lives of practicing devotees or even exalted devotees. The Lord puts these. Any questions on this? Yes.
This the 10th canto verse we read just now.
Which one?
10th canto, the demigods.
Ah.
So that verse refers to devotee who has not committed offense, or it refers to both Lord's desire and those who have offended, or only to one who is undergoing impediments due to Lord's desire. The two cases, one is offending Vaishnava Parad and one is Lord's desire.
Correct.
So the verses we referred, 10 to 23 and 1, 5, 19, first canto. So those verses only apply to devotees who are going obstacles due to Lord's desire. My question is
no. See, in the purport to 1:5:19, there the Lord speaks about a devotee who has developed some material desires, like fruitive workers. Prabhupada writes there. Fruitive workers. Fruitive workers means material desires. So it's sadhakas. So sadhakas, they're practicing devotional service, but at the same time they develop some material desires. And to destroy those material desires, then the Lord puts the devotee through punishments, which are apparent obstacles in the life of the devotee. So that verse specifically refers to sadhakas. And the 10th canto, this 10th canto verse is speaking about those devotees. Ultimately, both cases is the desire of the Lord. It is the desire of the Lord because they are devotees. So when they're devotees, they come under the jurisdiction of the Lord. Whether they are sadhakas or whether they're advanced devotees, ultimately all devotees are under the jurisdiction of the Lord. Whatever happens in their lives is not due to karma. So in the 10th canto purport, Srila Prabhupada is given the examples of Bharat Maharaj, Chitraketu. So these were very exalted devotees, practically on the level of prema. But still, the Lord wanted to teach something through them. And that is why the Lord, he put some obstacles in their lives. But in either case, whether it is sadhakas or whether it is such exalted devotees, in both cases, ultimately it is the plan of the Lord.
But when one offends, like through Vaishnava Parad, so then they don't get these benefits, like whatever is mentioned, conquering our enemies or all those things.
Yes, that is true. Because when one has material desires, it is not offense. I hope everyone is aware of this difference between sin and offense. So having material desires and sense gratification, so all this comes under the category of sins. But when one commits offense to a devotee, then that is aparadh. Then Krishna takes that very seriously because his devotees have been mistreated. And therefore, Bhakti Devi takes it very seriously. And so Bhakti Devi withdraws her mercy because she is displeased. So that is the difference. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada is explaining that when the devotee has material desires, then such a devotee gets punishment, and such a devotee is very fortunate to get that punishment because then he gets rectified. But in the case of offense against Vaishnavas, then the mercy is totally lost. Therefore, for such a devotee to once again come back to the right path may take a very long time. Unless there is serious repentance and begging for forgiveness and the devotee bestows mercy, then he can be rectified. But yes, so that's the difference. So in that context, one more important point, maybe if some of you were there in those brahmachari classes we were discussing on Madhuri Kadamini. So there he explains what is one of the main differences between seva aprad and nam aprad. So he says the main difference is seva aprad is unintentionally committed, whereas nam aprad is intentionally committed. He said this is one of the main differences. So a seva aprad, either the person is ignorant or the force of circumstances or something like that. And even if he commits that mistake, a sincere devotee repents for it. So then the effects are not so serious. But nam aprad especially refers to someone who intentionally commits an offense. Even in the case of Vaishnava aprad, if it is unintentional, the effects are not so serious. But if it is intentional, therefore we see in the Chaitanya Charitamrita so many examples, all are intentionally committed offenses, like yes, Gopal Chapel, he offended Srivas Thakur. So it was intentional to defame Srivas Thakur by putting all the paraphernalia for Durga worship. So it was intentional, intentionally performed. Similarly, for Haridas Thakur, it was Gopal Chakravarti, who again blasphemed Haridas Thakur. And then Ramchandra Khan and Haridas Thakur, purposefully sending the prostitute to defame. So all these are purposefully committed, and therefore the effects were disastrous. So therefore, when we talk of namaprad, then it especially refers to purposefully committed out of envy, out of pride, and all these things. And so seva pradi says refers to somebody who is unintentionally committed and then repents for it as soon as he comes to know. So then one chants the holy names and takes up some sort of austerities, penances to rectify that. So then it's not taken so seriously. But if one purposefully does, then even an offense in service, if purposefully done, it goes into the category of namaprad. If purposefully done. Okay, yes.
Regarding that, we are discussing. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that the creeper of devotional service is uprooted. So can we say in that way that somebody sadhaka is progressing from Shraddha to Sadhu Sang to Bhajan Kriya? So somebody in the level of Bhajan Kriya and he commits offense. So then he comes down to Sadhu Sang or Shraddha, means his progress in devotional service comes down, and again he has to go from Shraddha and then go upward. So is it like that?
So basically he comes to zero platform. So it is practically like beginning devotional service all over again. The only difference is, for a normal person, in order to begin devotional service, he has to accumulate Ajnat Sukriti, then Adav Shraddha, then all that will happen. But in this case, that Ajnat Sukriti part is taken care because of his previous devotional activities. That is his Sukriti, which he has, which is still there, which is not lost. But he has to begin from Adav Shraddha. Because he has totally lost his Shraddha. So once again, he has to begin from that platform, Adav Shraddha, then Sadhu Sang, Bhajan. Again, therefore, Mahaprabhu says it's like the Bhakti Lata being uprooted, totally uprooted. Yes, so there could be different flavors to that. Depends upon what is the severity of the offense, what is the how much he has repented for it, how much he has taken some rectificatory measures. So all these factors also come into play. All these factors come into play. But in general, if it is a serious Vaishnava aparad, then that's what happens. Taken? Yes.
Guruji, we are discussing about how Lord puts impediments for a sadhaka devotee or those who are practicing and advancing. So how we are defining a devotee here based on faith only?
Yes. So So a devotee means one who has this Krishna Eka Sharanam. That means he has full faith. How we define faith?
Shabda Shabde Vishwasa.
Yes, Shraddha Shabda Vishwasa ko hi Sudrida Nishchay Krishna Bhakti koile Sarva Karma Krita.
He has that kind of faith, but still he had some material desires.
Yes, that means the faith is not Drida Shraddha. It is not fully fixed faith. So the faith is in the process of growing.
Correct.
Right? The faith keeps on growing. From Adav Shraddha to Prema, the faith is going on increasing. So till the point one comes to Drida Shraddha, which is like on the stage of Ruchi Asakti, till that point, then there is always a possibility of having material desires, being attached to material things. All these things is likely.
So seeing the condition of the devotee, then Lord accordingly he
Gives the
orchestrates.
Channamrit. Yes. Krishna knows exactly what is required for every devotee. He knows exactly. And anyone who has been in devotional service for some time will surely have some experience of this. Any doubts about that? Everyone, nobody is spared. Everyone goes through it. In some form or the other, Krishna will orchestrate that purification so that one realizes one's mistakes and comes to the right path. But then even in order to realize the mistake and come to the right path, the association of devotees is essential. Otherwise, the mind will trick one and one will leave. But if one is in the association, then yes, then one will come to the right path. Anything else?
For Siddha devotees, it is only just to glorify them. If any obstacles or any kind of test kind of thing, if especially pure devotees, we understand them, it's just to glorify them and to teach, especially to others also.
Yes.
In both.
In the case of, yes, very advanced devotees, then it is to glorify them and to teach others the glories of the pure devotees, the glories of pure devotional service, how a pure devotee, in spite of so many obstacles, continues on in his devotional service, like in the case of Prahlad Maharaj and the Pandavas. So, and therefore, in the context of the Pandavas, in the first canto 9th chapter, there Srila Prabhupada gives that example of the mother teaching the daughter-in-law through the daughter. So that's how the Lord teaches the world through his devotees. So that is in the case of these very exalted devotees. That is for the purpose of teaching. And of course, Vishwanath Thakur gives another reason why such pure devotees are put into such difficulties. Also, so that the process of devotional service is not taken cheaply. To maintain the confidentiality of pure devotional service. This is another reason. Otherwise, if a pure devotee does not have any difficulties, then some people may take to devotional service not to develop prema for the Lord, but simply to escape the difficulties of the world. So they will take the process very cheaply. So that is another reason he says, that is why we find that even pure devotees may go through life like any other ordinary person. The various reasons. And of course, as Bhishma Devi says, ultimately, what is the plan of the Lord? Even the greatest of philosophers cannot understand. So, very difficult to understand. Exactly what is the plan? Very difficult. But as far as we sadhakas are concerned, for us the purpose is very clear. The Lord wants to teach us something. Okay? So class 145 or 2? 2. Okay, we have 10 minutes. Okay, we'll read a few verses. So this is the most essential part of the chapter. The most essential part of the chapter is covered. Now the rest of the thing we'll go through quickly. Okay. Please read the translation to the 6th verse.
My dear king, Prince
Shukdev
Priyavrata,
Goswami continued, right?
sorry, Sukadeva Goswami continued, my dear king, Prince Priyavrata was a great devotee because he sought the lotus feet of Narada, his spiritual master, and thus achieved the highest perfection in transcendental knowledge. With advanced knowledge, he always engaged in discussing spiritual subjects and did not divert his attention to anything else. The prince's father then asked him to take charge of the ruling the world. He tried to convince Priyavrat that this was his duty as indicated in the revealed scriptures. Prince Priyavrat, however, was continuously practicing Bhakti Yoga by constantly remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thus engaging all his senses in the service of the Lord. Therefore, although the order of his father could not be rejected, the prince did not welcome it. Thus, he very conscientiously raised the question of whether he might be diverted from devotional service by accepting the responsibility of ruling over the world.
Yes. So Swayambhu Manu, he came to request Priyavrat to take the kingdom. And so already Priyavrat was totally engaged in devotional service according to the instructions of Narad Muni. And so Priyavrat thought this will be a distraction to his devotional service. So he was not very enthusiastic to take up the kingdom. So Srila Prabhupada in the first paragraph, Prabhupada of course begins by quoting Narottam Das Thakur, Chandiya Vaishnav Seva Nistar Paichakeba. And so Prince Priyavrat was regularly serving the lotus feet of Narada, and so he understood all these subject matters. In the second paragraph, when Priyavrat's father Swayambhu Manu requested him to accept the responsibility of ruling over the world, he did not welcome the suggestion. This is the symptom of a great liberated devotee. Even though engaged in worldly affairs, he does not take pleasure in them, but remains always absorbed in the Lord's service. Okay, so even though he may be engaged in worldly affairs, various responsibilities, social responsibilities, or whatever other but his main focus is the Lord's lotus feet. The main focus is the remembrance of the Lord. While thus serving the Lord, he deals externally with worldly affairs without being affected. And then he gives an example. Although he has no attraction for his children, he cares for them, educates them to become devotees. Similarly, speaks to his wife with affectionate words, but he's not attached to her. So those are all duties. As duties, he does them, but he's not attached to them. By rendering devotional service, a devotee acquires all the good qualities of the Supreme Lord. Lord Krishna had 16,000 wives, all of them very beautiful. Although he dealt with each of them as a beloved husband, he was not attached to any one of them. In the same way, although devotee may enter family life and act very affectionate to his wife and children, he is never attached to these activities. This verse states that by serving the lotus feet of his spiritual master, Prince Priyavrat very soon attained the perfectional stage of Krishna consciousness. Yasya deve para bhaktir, yatha deve tata guru. Further down, just as an ordinary man always engages his mind in material activities, a devotee always engages his mind in spiritual activities. This is called Brahma Satra, or meditating upon the Supreme Lord always. Okay, go ahead. 7th verse.
Sri Sukdev Goswami continued. The first created being and most powerful demigod in this universe is Lord Brahma, who is always responsible for developing universal affairs. Born directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he dedicates his activities to the welfare of the entire universe, for he knows the purpose of the universal creation. This supremely powerful Lord Brahma, accompanied by his associates and personified Vedas, left his own abode in the highest planetary system and descended to the place of Prince Priyavrata's meditation.
Okay, so when Priyavrat did not listen to Swayambhu Manu, then Swayambhu Manu had to take shelter of higher authorities. So he went to Brahma. Okay, Vishwanath Thakur's commentary on this verse, please.
Knowing that Priyavrata, detached since childhood, would leave the house and go to the forest, Manu appointed his younger brother to rule the
to rule the kingdom.
Who was the younger brother? Uttanapad.
His descendants up to the Prachetas ruled the kingdom. In this
Okay. So from Uttanapad, after Uttanapad, who came? Dhruva. After Dhruva? Uttama was there? No. Uttama was killed before. Right. Dhruva's son Utkal was there for some time, I think. And then further down it went to Prachin Barishad and then Prachetas. So that's how that whole dynasty was going on. So, okay, continue.
In this way, half of Swambhu Manvantar passed. Daksha was born a second time as the son of the Prachetas during Swambhu Manvantara, but with a desire to attain his previous powers, he went to perform austerities.
Okay, so within the Swambhu Manvantara, in each Manvantara, there are in each day of Brahma, how many Manus are there? 14 Manus. So then Daksha, so Daksha was, he was initially son of, whose son he was? When that pastime took place, beginning of the 4th canto with Lord Shiva.
Brahma's.
Yes, it was Brahma's son. You know that pastime, no? Daksha entered. Brahma didn't stand up, Shiva did not stand up. He didn't mind Brahma not standing up because he was his father. So that was the first time. And then we know he was killed. And then after he was killed, and then he was born again as the son of Prachetas, born to this Apsara. Yes. So, no, by the union of Pramlocha and Kandu. The sage Kandu and Pramlocha, they united and then they produced this Marisha. And then this Marisha was given to the trees. And then when the Prachetas, they came out of their meditation and they saw all trees all around, because for so many years there was no king. And so the trees had just grown, no place for crops. Then they started burning the trees. And at that time, I think the Brahma comes, I think. No? Brahma comes or the moon god comes. And that girl was given to the Prachetas in marriage. And that's how the Prachetas got married to this Marisha. And from them, Daksha was born for the second time. Daksha was born for the second time. But then Daksha didn't want to take charge of the kingdom immediately. That's what is being explained here. Okay, go ahead.
Since there was no king, Manu, seeing no alternative,
so he went to perform austerities to get his powers.
Wanted to bring Privrat back from the forest. When he was not able to bring him back, Brahma came and made Privrat rule the kingdom. Privrata's descendant ruled until the 5th Manvantara. Since the 3rd, 4th and 5th Manus, Uttam, Tamas and Ravat were the sons of Privrata. With only the 2nd Manu, Swarochisa, intervening, he was the son of Agni. The sons and grandsons of these Manus ruled as kings over the earth as descendants of Privrata's line. Then at the beginning of the Chaksusa Manvantara, giving up his austerities, Daksha in Uttanapada's line became the king and engaged in producing population.
Okay, so that is the sequence of events that have taken place. So anyways, now Lord Brahma is coming to settle the issue. Okay, please read the next few verses, translations.
As Lord Brahma descended on his carrier, the great swan, all the residents of the planet named Siddhaloka, Gandharvaloka, Siddhalok, Sadhyalok, Charanalok, as well as as great sages and demigods flying in their different aeroplanes, assemble within the canopy of the sky to receive Lord Brahma and worship him. As he received respect and adoration from the residents of various planets, Lord Brahma appeared just like the full moon surrounded by illuminating stars. Lord Brahma's great swan then arrived at the border of Gandhamadana hill and approached Prince Priyavrat, who was sitting here there.
Okay, read the next one. Take pass on. Ninth verse translation.
Lord Brahma, the father of Narada Muni, is the supreme person within this universe. As soon as Narada saw the great swan, he could understand that Lord Brahma had arrived. Therefore, he immediately stood up along with Swayambhu Manu and his son Priyavrata, whom Narada was instructing. Then they folded their hands and began to worship Lord Brahma with great respect.
Next.
My dear King Parikshit, because Lord Brahma had finally descended from Satyaloka to Bhulok, Narad Muni, Prince Priyavrat, and Swayambhu Manu came forward to offer him objects of worship and to praise him in highly qualified language, according to Vedic etiquette. At that time, Lord Brahma, the original person of this universe, felt compassion for Priyavrat and looking upon him with a smiling face, spoke to him as follows.
Okay, so here Prabhupada is explaining why Lord Brahma was smiling. So Prabhupada says Lord Brahma knew that Narada's instructions were very impressive. Therefore, unless Lord Brahma personally went to Gandhamadhan hill to request Priyavrat, Lord Brahma knew that Prince Priyavrat would not accept his father's order. And Brahma's purpose was to break Priyavrat's determination. So Brahma knew that Narada's instructions are so powerful that Priyavrat is not going to give up so easily his renunciation. So therefore, Brahma is thinking, you are determined to maintain your renunciation and I am determined to break your determination. So therefore, Brahma is smiling. Therefore, Brahma first looked upon Priyavrat with compassion. His smile and compassionate features also indicated that although Brahma would request Priyavrat to accept household life, Priyavrat would not be out of touch with devotional service. This is an important point. By the blessings of a Vaishnav, everything is possible. Okay, so even though in household life, devotional service may be difficult, but by the blessings of the Vaishnav, everything is possible. And that applies, that's a Siddhanta which is applicable for everyone. By the blessings of the Vaishnava, everything is possible. This is described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Kripa Siddhi, or perfection attained simply by the blessings of a superior person. One usually becomes liberated and perfect by executing the regulative principles set down in the Shastras. Nonetheless, many persons have achieved perfection simply by the blessings of a spiritual master or superior. Priyavrat was the grandson of Lord Brahma, and as joking competition sometimes takes place between grandson and grandfather, in this case also Priyavrat was determined to remain in meditation, whereas Brahma was determined that he ruled the universe. Thus Lord Brahma's affectionate smile and glance meant, my dear Priyavrat, you have decided not to accept household life, but I have decided to convince you that you must accept it. Actually, Brahma had come to praise Priyavrat for his high standard of renunciation, austerity, penance, and devotion, so that he would not be deviated from devotional service, even though he would accept household life. And from the next verse, Lord Brahma begins to speak to explain to Priyavrat why he should rule the kingdom. Okay, so this we will continue tomorrow. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samved Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so we will continue our discussions tomorrow.